There are anabolic steroids. And then there is Trenbolone, a compound surrounded by more mythology, fear, admiration and controversy than almost any other performance-enhancing drug in history. Mention the word tren in a bodybuilding gym and you'll hear stories of unbelievable transformations. You'll also hear stories of anxiety, insomnia, relationship problems, cardiovascular scares, and health consequences that lasted long after the physique gains disappeared. How can one compound create such opposite experiences? To answer that question, we need to go back to the beginning. Origin story. Trenbolone was never designed for bodybuilders. It was developed for veterinary agriculture. Researchers discovered that cattle exposed to Trenbolone could gain more lean mass from the same amount of food. This characteristic, known as improved feed efficiency, made it extremely attractive in livestock production. Eventually, athletes and bodybuilders became aware of its anabolic properties. And from there, the legend began. Why it became famous. Most anabolic steroids improve muscle growth. Trenbolone developed a reputation for doing more. Users frequently reported rapid strength increases, dramatic body recomposition, enhanced muscle density, increased hardness, reduced visible water retention. Whether all of these effects are as dramatic as internet stories claim is debatable. But the reputation was enough to make Trenbolone one of the most discussed compounds in bodybuilding history. How Trenbolone works. Inside muscle cells are androgen receptors. Think of them as biological switches. When activated, they influence protein synthesis, muscle repair tissue, remodeling recovery pathways, muscle adaptation. Trenbolone binds strongly to these receptors. This is one reason it became known for producing significant anabolic effects. Muscle growth. Scientific literature suggests anabolic steroids can increase muscle protein synthesis, nitrogen retention, recovery capacity, lean mass accumulation. Trenbolone appears to influence many of the same pathways. The result is an environment favorable for muscle growth and muscle retention. Why athletes became interested. Every athlete wants some combination of more strength, better recovery, improved body composition, greater power output. Trenbolone gained popularity because it appeared capable of influencing all four. But performance is sport-specific. The same compound that benefits one athlete may create disadvantages for another. Trenbolone in bodybuilding. Bodybuilding rewards muscle size, conditioning, symmetry, hardness, low body fat. This is where Trenbolone became most famous. Many competitors reported dramatic improvements in visual appearance. However, contest preparation already imposes calorie restriction, psychological stress, sleep disruption. Adding a powerful anabolic steroid may amplify those stresses. Trenbolone in powerlifting. Powerlifting rewards maximum force production. Anabolic steroids can improve lean mass recovery strength. This explains their historical presence in strength sports. But powerlifting already places significant stress on blood pressure, connective tissues, the cardiovascular system. Potential anabolic benefits exist alongside cardiovascular concerns. Trenbolone in weightlifting. Olympic lifting requires power-speed coordination, timing, technical precision. More muscle is not automatically better. Sleep disruption, anxiety, and neurological fatigue may negatively affect technical sports. Trenbolone in arm wrestling. Arm wrestling depends heavily on tendons, connective tissue, grip, strength, recovery. One concern frequently discussed in sports medicine is that muscle strength may increase faster than connective tissues adapt. This mismatch may contribute to injury risk. Trenbolone in wrestling, boxing and AMP. MMA combat sports require endurance recovery power technique, decision-making. Many users report reduced cardiovascular performance while using Trenbolone. For sports where conditioning determines victory, this becomes extremely important. A stronger athlete is not necessarily a better athlete if endurance declines. The dark side of Trenbolone. The greatest concern among researchers is not muscle. It's the cardiovascular system. Long-term anabolic steroid exposure has been associated with hypertension, cardiac remodeling, ventricular hypertrophy, impaired cardiac function, increased cardiovascular disease risk, heart enlargement. A larger heart is not always a healthier heart. Excessive thickening of cardiac muscle can reduce efficiency and increase arrhythmia risk. Some studies of long-term steroid users have identified enlarged hearts, fibrosis, structural abnormalities, cholesterol. One of the most consistent findings in anabolic steroid research is disruption of cholesterol profiles. Common findings include lower HDL, higher LDL. Over years, these changes may contribute to cardiovascular disease. Blood pressure. Elevated blood pressure increases stress on arteries, kidneys, heart tissue, brain tissue. Combined with cholesterol changes, risk increases further. Heart attacks and AMP, strokes. Researchers increasingly recognize associations between long-term anabolic steroid abuse and heart attacks, strokes, vascular disease. The exact risk varies between individuals, but the concern is significant. Hormonal suppression. The body maintains hormone production through feedback systems. When external androgens are introduced, LH decreases, FSH decreases, natural testosterone production declines. This phenomenon is well established in steroid research. Fertility. Suppression of reproductive hormones can impair sperm production, fertility, reproductive function. Many users do not think about fertility until years later. Libido. Libido responses vary dramatically. Some report increases. Others report sexual dysfunction, reduced desire, erectile difficulties. Human sexual function is influenced by multiple hormones and neurological pathways. The brain. One of the fastest growing areas of research involves neuropsychiatric effects. Studies suggest anabolic steroids may influence dopamine systems, serotonin pathways, emotional regulation, reward, processing, aggression. The phrase roid rage entered public culture for a reason. Not everyone experiences aggression, but research has linked anabolic steroid exposure with increased aggression in some users. Anxiety. Many users describe nervous energy, restlessness, panic-like symptoms. These reports appear frequently in both clinical literature and user populations. Insomnia. Trensomnia became a term because sleep disruption is one of the most commonly reported issues. Poor sleep affects recovery, cognition, mood, athletic performance. Ironically, a compound used to enhance performance may simultaneously impair recovery. Tren cough. One of the most unusual reports is tren cough. Users describe sudden coughing episodes shortly after administration. The mechanism remains uncertain and scientific data remain limited. Information about tren cycle, stack combinations, dosage guidelines, performance optimization, injection guidance, harm minimized instructions, and PCT are taken from various sources on the internet. Only, for example, to explain what type of doses people are taking. There is no proper evidence on the data shown in research papers if it works or not. Tren cycle. If you have never supplemented with the Trenbolone steroid, it is always recommended you begin very simple as to see how you react to the steroid. If you react poorly, the last thing you want is a massive amount of the hormone in your system. Further, while there are many forms to choose from, first-time tren cycles should always consist of Trenbolone acetate. In this, we will make no exception. The acetate version is a small ester form, and if problems arise because the ester is so small, you can discontinue use, and the hormone will clear your system in 2 to 3 days. During your first round with this hormone, if you choose one of the larger ester forms, such as Trenbolone, Enhancement, if problems arise, you will have to wait weeks after discontinuation before the negative symptoms dissipate. As for the cycle itself, good beginner tren cycles will normally consist of 50 milliliters of Trenbolone acetate on an every other day basis. This means 1 week you will inject 50 milliliters 3 times, and the next week 50 milliliters 4 times, and so on until you have completed the total duration of use. For many men, 50 milliliters every other day will prove to be all they ever need. While this may seem like a low amount, we can assure you it will provide amazing results even in an experienced anabolic steroid user. Any performance enhancer will find this to be a perfect steroid and dose for bulking or cutting. Intermediate tren cycles. This will be about as far as most men will be willing to take it, and in terms of remaining safe as far as they will truly ever want to go. If you have supplemented with this hormone before, you may, if you choose, use a longer ester form of Trenbolone, but at the same time, Trenbolone acetate will prove to be the most efficient, as it is far more stable than any other form in terms of maintaining peak levels. For this reason, we will use Trenbolone acetate in our intermediate tren cycles examples. If you choose to use another form, simply adjust the dose and injection frequency to meet the needs of a larger ester form. Solid intermediate tren cycles will begin at 75 milliliters every other day, with 100 milliliters every other day being far more commonplace. A good example of a solid off-season cycle might look like this. Week 1 to 6. D-bol 50 milliliters every day. Week 1 to 8. Trenbolone acetate 100 milliliters every other day. Week 1 to 12. Testosterone enanthate or cypionate 400 milliliters to 750 milliliters per week. Depends on individual desire. As for quality tren cycles during a cutting period, quality examples might look like this. Week 1 to 8. Testosterone enanthate or cypionate 200 to 250 milliliters every other day. Week 1 to 8. Equipoise 200 milliliters every other day. Week 9 to 16. Trenbolone acetate 100 milliliters every other day. Week 9 to 16. Testosterone propionate 100 to 200 milliliters every other day. Of course, the individual could add in other things to any of these cycles if he so desires. Aromatase inhibitors are strongly recommended, and we have not considered the advent of fat burners and things such as HGH, but the above tren cycles should give you a good idea. Advanced tren cycles. For the advanced tren cycles, there is truly no set amount, but we can begin with 100 milliliters every single day. You need to understand this is a lot of Trenbolone, and for the strong majority of men, it will be far more than they can handle. If you choose to supplement with amounts of this nature, you need to understand you are going to experience some negative side effects. There's simply no way around this. If you ever supplement with this amount and no negative reaction occurs, you need to question the legitimacy of your product severely. While such tren cycles are not that common among most performance enhancers, They are not uncommon in competitive bodybuilding at the elite level, with doses sometimes approaching 150 milliliters per day, and while rare, sometimes even 200 milliliters per day for short periods of time. Please understand, trend cycles of this nature are very dangerous. They are hard on your heart and blood pressure, and if you desire to remain safe, they are not something you will ever want to mess with. We have simply made you aware of what some do, but this does not mean you should do it too. The reality is very simple. There is hardly a man out there, no matter how far advanced, that needs more than 100 milligrams of Trenbolone every other day. We can, however, make an exception of making this dose daily the last 10 to 14 days before a bodybuilding competition for a hardening effect, but that's it. Trenbolone stack combinations. Common Trenbolone stack combinations are categorized by goal, with Trenbolone acetate typically used for cutting and Trenbolone enanthate for bulking. All cycles require a testosterone base, e.g., testosterone propionate or enanthate, to mitigate severe testosterone suppression and maintain physiological function. Cutting stacks, designed for fat loss, muscle hardness and definition, these cycles typically last 8 to 10 weeks. Trenbolone acetate plus testosterone propionate plus winstrol combines. Tren for fat loss and muscle preservation, Test Prop for hormonal balance, and Winstrol for dry, hard aesthetics. Winstrol is often added in the final 4 to 6 weeks. Trenbolone acetate plus testosterone. Propionate plus Anavar. Anavar promotes fat loss and muscle definition without water retention, complementing Trenbolone's dry effects. Trenbolone acetate plus testosterone. Propionate plus Masteron. Masteron enhances hardness and vascularity, often used in recomp or advanced cutting phases. Bulking stacks. Focused on rapid mass and strength gains, these cycles typically last 8 to 12 weeks. Trenbolone enanthate plus testosterone plus Dianabol. Dianabol provides rapid initial mass and strength, while Trenbolone and testosterone support sustained growth. Trenbolone enanthate plus testosterone plus Anadrol. Anadrol delivers dramatic strength and size gains, but carries higher risks of water retention and liver stress. Trenbolone enanthate plus testosterone plus Decadurabolin. Decadurabolin provides joint support and steady anabolic effects, suitable for longer bulking phases. Dosage guidelines. Beginner cutting. Trenbolone acetate 50 to 75 milligrams every other day with testosterone. Propionate 100 milligrams every other day. Advanced bulking. Trenbolone enanthate 300 to 400 milligrams per week with testosterone. Enanthate 300 to 500 milligrams per week. Advanced cutting. Trenbolone acetate 150 to 300 milligrams per week combined with Winstrol or Anavar. Critical considerations. Post-cycle therapy, PCT. Essential after all cycles to restore natural testosterone production, typically involving Clomid or Nolvadex for 4 to 6 weeks. Side effects. Trenbolone carries risks of cardiovascular strain, insomnia, night sweats, and aggression. Regular blood work and monitoring of lipid profiles are recommended. Aromatase inhibitors. Compounds like anastrozole may be needed to control estrogen-related side effects, even though Trenbolone itself does not aromatize significantly. Performance optimization regimens. The best way to use Trenbolone depends on balancing blood stability with side effect management. Optimization focuses on maintaining steady serum levels to avoid peaks and troughs that exacerbate side effects like insomnia and anxiety. Ester selection strategy. Trenbolone acetate, preferred for cutting or first-time users due to its short half-life, 48 to 72 hours. It allows for rapid clearance if severe side effects occur. Frequency. Injected every other day, EOD, or daily to maintain stable levels. Dosage. Typically 50 to 75 mg EOD for beginners, up to 100 mg EOD for advanced users. Trenbolone enanthate, preferred for bulking or longer cycles due to its longer half-life, of 7 to 10 days. It provides smoother blood levels but requires a longer clearance time if issues arise. Frequency. Injected 2 times per week, e.g. Monday/Thursday. Dosage. Typically 200 to 400 ml a week for beginners, up to 600 mg per week for advanced users. Trenbolone. Acetate versus enanthate performance optimization. Stacking for optimization. Trenbolone should almost always be stacked with a testosterone base, e.g. testosterone enanthate or cypionate, to prevent TrenDic, erectile dysfunction caused by progestin activity and low estrogen, and maintain physiological function. Bulking. Stack with long ester testosterone and potentially decadurabolin or dianabol, oral. Cutting. Stack with short ester testosterone, propionate and non-aromatizing compounds like winstrol or anavar. Injection. Guidance. Proper injection technique is critical to avoid tren cough, a violent coughing fit caused by oil entering the bloodstream, and infections. Site selection and AMP. Preparation sites. Common intramuscular IM sites include the glutes, upper outer quadrant, vastus lateralis, outer thigh, or deltoids for smaller volumes. Hygiene. Wash hands thoroughly. Clean the injection site and vial stopper with an alcohol swab. Use sterile, single-use needles and syringes. Never share equipment. Injection technique to prevent tren cough. Needle size. Use an appropriate gauge, typically 23G to 25G, where G refers to gauge, which denotes the thickness of the needle. 23G has 0.64 millimeters of thickness, and 25G has 0.51 millimeters of thickness, and length of needle should be 1 to 1.5 inches for glutes or thighs to ensure deep intramuscular deposition. Aspiration. Before injecting, pull back slightly on the plunger. If blood appears, withdraw immediately and discard the setup. You have hit a blood vessel. Slow administration. Inject the oil very slowly. A 1 ml injection should take at least 30 to 60 seconds. Rapid injection increases pressure, forcing oil into capillaries, which triggers the cough reflex. Post-injection. Apply pressure with a clean tissue to prevent bleeding and bruising. Rotate injection sites to prevent scar tissue buildup. Harm minimized use instructions. Harm reduction is essential due to Trenbolone's harsh side effect profile. Cardiovascular and AMP. Organ support. Lipid management. Trenbolone severely skews cholesterol, lowers HDL, raises LDL. Supplement with omega-3 fatty acids, 4 to 6 grams per day. CoQ10 and engage in regular cardio. Blood pressure, monitor BP regularly. High sodium intake should be avoided. Liver, kidney. While not 17 to alpha-alkylated injectable, Trenbolone increases renal strain. Stay highly hydrated and avoid concurrent use of hepatotoxic orals like Anadrol for extended periods. Supplements like NAC, N-acetylcysteine, and TUDCA, tauroursodeoxycholic acid, are often used for organ support. Managing side effects. Trendic, ED, caused by elevated prolactin and suppressed estrogen. Keep testosterone base adequate. If prolactin rises significantly, a dopamine agonist, e.g. cabergoline, may be required, but blood work is essential first. Insomnia, anxiety, common due to noradrenergic effects. Avoid taking injections late in the day. Some users find relief with taurine supplementation or adjusting the dose downward. Night sweats, a common side effect. Ensure adequate hydration and electrolyte balance. Trenbolone side effect management and harm reduction. Post-cycle therapy, PCT. Protocol. Trenbolone completely shuts down natural testosterone production. A robust PCT is mandatory to recover hormonal function and preserve gains. Timing. Acetate. Start PCT 3 to 5 days after the last injection. Enanthate. Start PCT 10 to 14 days after the last injection. Standard protocol, 4 to 6 weeks. SERMs. Use a selective estrogen receptor modulator like Clomid, Clomiphene, and/or Nolvadex, tamoxifen. Example: Clomid 50 mg per day for 2 weeks, then 25 mg per day for 2 weeks. Nolvadex 20 to 40 mg per day for 4 weeks. HCG, optional. Human chorionic gonadotropin can be used before starting SERMs during the clearance window to wake up the testes, typically 500 IU every other day for 2 to 3 weeks. Blood work, essential 4 to 6 weeks post-PCT to confirm testosterone, LH, FSH, and lipid recovery. Long-term consequences and AMP. Final verdict. Most discussions focus on what happens in 8 weeks. Researchers care more about what happens in 10 years, because long-term exposure may influence cardiovascular health, endocrine health, reproductive health, neurological health, psychiatric well-being. What science knows. Evidence strongly supports that anabolic steroids can increase lean mass, increase strength, improve recovery capacity. Evidence also supports significant risks involving cardiovascular disease, hormonal suppression, fertility impairment, psychiatric effects. What science doesn't know. Because Trenbolone was never approved for routine human medical use, high-quality long-term human data remain limited. Many claims online are stronger than the evidence supporting them. This is why separating anecdote from science is critical. Final verdict. Trenbolone is neither magic nor mythology. It is a powerful anabolic compound with real physiological effects. Those effects helped create its legendary reputation. But the same biological mechanisms that may enhance physique and performance can also create substantial stress on the heart, the endocrine system, the reproductive system, the brain. The rewards may appear quickly. The consequences may take years to reveal themselves. And that is why Trenbolone remains one of the most controversial compounds in sports history. If you enjoyed this evidence-based breakdown of performance enhancement, sports science, endocrinology, and human physiology, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because understanding the science behind performance is far more valuable than believing the myths.